Oh, what time is it? Oh, I got a Beedrill. Hello, my name is Daydreamer Dan, and one of every Pokemon could beat a billion lions. Ever since I was a child, the world of Pokemon has always mesmerized me. From the excitement of catching rare Pokemon, to the silly antics of the anime, to all of the first edition cards that I used to collect that I definitely threw out back in high school because, why would I ever need them again? Why would I ever need them again? To me, Pokemon was a very important aspect of my life, helping shape my love for RPGs and video games as a whole. It will forever be remembered as a fantastical escape from those sad days during my childhood, a memory that can't be broken no matter what. So, what better way to shit on those early untainted memories than to have an unimportant debate topic that has no weight in the real world? That's right, for today's video, we're going to be answering the question that's been asked by countless millennials with nothing better to do than to argue on the internet. Who would win in an all-out war? One of every single Pokemon, or a billion lions? Now, this debate is a lot more recent than some of the more classic ones, like Coke or Pepsi, or if the dress was blue or gold, or whether it's weird if the Disney Robin Hood was a bisexual awakening of yours. The answer to those, by the way, are Pepsi, gold, and no, it's not weird, and it doesn't make you a furry, they made him sexy on purpose. However, the age of the debate doesn't reflect how contentious the responses have been in this short amount of time. If you know a YouTuber with more than 10,000 subscribers who has even accidentally mentioned Pikachu's name at some point in the last year, you probably have heard their thoughts on where they land in the Pokemon v Lion argument. From VGC players, to animators, to Smash commentators, to whatever the hell you'd consider J-Schlatt, everyone has been taking advantage of the hype from this hypothetical situation. I mean, imagine watching another video just recounting all of the same arguments in this ridiculous exchange. So anyway, let's talk about if Pokemon or a billion lions would win. I'll be going over the arguments for and against both sides and mention why the release of the most recent mobile game, Pokemon Sleep, actually gives us an answer of who would end up being the victor. It's a Mothman sleep mask, by the way. Before I even jump into the argument, let me go over my credentials in order to show you why I'm a credible source when it comes to this topic. First off, my academic background. If you've ever seen any of my other videos, you've probably seen that I like to flex my $30,000 degree that I don't use on a daily basis. A BS in psychology, graduating with honors. No, please, don't clap. I'm just like you. I also hold down the A and B button whenever I'm trying to catch a Pokemon. Now you may be thinking, Dan, this is about animals and animal-adjacent creatures, not the brain and why you need therapy. And to that I say, ouch, no need to hit below the child of divorce belt. However, as part of my degree, I had to take several biological science classes in addition to my psychology courses. In fact, one of the classes I took actually worked with the zoo in Seattle, and I wrote a research paper about a bird with one of the coolest names of all time, the cock of the rock. Has it been 2 minutes into the video yet? Can I say that word? Aside. What I'm trying to say is that I've taken several classes that have to do with animals and their behaviors, which I think is very important when it comes to understanding both lions and Pokemon. After all, most Pokemon are based after some sort of real-life animal. Except for Magnemite, I don't think that's real. God, I hope it's not real. As for my understanding of Pokemon, I've played at least one mainline game from each generation since release, and that's not even including all of the great side games like Pokemon Troze. I just wanted to talk about Pokemon Troze. In fact, Pokemon Yellow was the first video game I ever played, period. I've done multiple challenge runs of the game, and I even competitively played on Pokemon Showdown for a while. To show how much of a die-hard fan I was, I'm gonna share something that I've never talked about before. Back in middle school, I actually used to be part of some forums that did Pokemon role-playing. I actually used to get really upset with the mods of the forums because I didn't think that they were responding quick enough for my impatient 13-year-old mind. But I really wanted that Caravana. I got so obsessed with these forums that I actually ended up inviting my friends to come play on it too, and they gave up after like 2 days. but I had a good time. So with over 25 years of Pokemon experience, I know a thing or two when it comes to both the mechanics and the lore of the games. Now with my credentials all out of the way, I can now get into what you guys probably find more interesting because, well, more interesting people have talked about it. We're going to cover the common arguments. Let's start off with the lines. First off, let's get the most obvious part out of the way, the number of lines. There's no argument against this. A billion is 1,000 millions, which is buck wild. The average human being has about 100,000 strands of hair on the top of their head. Unless you're Andrew Tate, where you have less hair on your head than you have sense in it. To help visualize how big a billion is, imagine getting 10,000 people to go into a barber shop, shaving off all of their heads and then counting each individual strand of hair. If we were to break this down so that each Pokemon took on an even number of lines, it would still come out to about 990,099 lines each that the Pokemon have to face, or about 935,453 each if you include regional forms. Sorry, Galarian Zigzagoon. With this high of a number, you would definitely need some Omega level threat Pokemon in order to take on all of these lions, which I agree would be pretty impossible. The problem though is that when it comes to the other pro lion stances, none of them are as strong as the numbers defense. For instance, lions would be able to use Bite or Crunch to attack ghost types. Now, I'm not going to argue that a lion's bite can't be dark type because I will give it to the Pokedoubters that it does make sense if you were to translate that over to the Pokemon mechanics. What I will argue is that lions can't just bite a ghost type. According to Kruger National Park, a safari located in South Africa, in a successful hunt, the prey is knocked off balance, dragged down, and then killed with a bite to the back of the neck or throat. So while yes, lions are able to bite to kill their prey, they often have to use tackle or takedown in order to knock their prey off balance first. And what typing would those moves be? That's right, much like when someone asks me why I make that weird burping sound whenever I yawn, it's normal. At least I hope it is. Another argument, Pokemon would run out of PP, and I'm not talking about the gross kind. Power points, or PP, are often used to denote how many times a Pokemon can use a move in battle. While yes, running out of moves would completely be possible and a huge death sentence for any Pokemon who can't water gun anymore, including this one mechanic seems like that you would have to include all battle mechanics when it comes to Pokemon. And if that's the case, we have to consider all of the battle mechanics that are brought up in Wolfie's own video of Pokemon vs. Lions, and how spread moves could easily be taken advantage of, to the point where they could kill every single line with just one move. However, the most egregious arguments that I've heard so far is the following. Lions will World War Z chain ladder together or catapult themselves up towards flying Pokemon. Lions, along with every other cat in the cat family, are thought to come from one common ancestor, Prolurus limeansis. This first cat was believed to stalk the earth over 25 million years ago. That's a long ass time. And do you know what cats have not learned how to do in those 25 million years of evolution? How to spontaneously groupthink to the point where they can contort their bodies in advanced ways in order to create mechanics where they can either toss themselves up super high up into the air or come together a la Voltron in order to take out foes that are super high up. Lions are pack animals and they work together in order to hunt their prey. However, that doesn't mean that there's one lion sitting in a chair somewhere yelling out commands on how the lions can link their limbs together in order to create a structurally sound ladder just for them to defeat Hoothoot. Fucking Hoothoot! So it seems like that the biggest obstacle that the Pokemon have to overcome is the sheer number of lines that they have to face. So let's dive into the Pokemon arguments. One huge stipulation often brought up in these arguments is how we're basing the power of the Pokemon. If it's based off of gameplay mechanics, lore, and story, or the dreaded third option, the Pokedex. Let's go over all three of these different options. If the battle was based completely off of gameplay mechanics, the Pokemon would win easily. I've already made reference to it, but Wolfie's amazing video already covers the mechanics needed in order for just one Pokemon to take out a billion lines in just one turn. Go watch that video if you want the specific numbers for it. When it comes to the anime and the story in the Pokemon games though, this is where it becomes a bit more difficult for the Pokemon team. While powerful Pokemon have been able to to take on hordes of opponents in the past, Mewtwo facing several trainers at once, or Dragonite blasting back a few Team Rocket grunts are just not enough when there are several hundreds of millions of lines still in the back line. While I will say that flying and levitating Pokemon still have an advantage here, I would say it would be a much closer fight because of the pure amount of effort and energy that these remaining creatures would have to put in, pushing them into exhaustion. Because of all these factors and just the sheer number of lions, I'm pretty convinced that the lions would actually win in this situation. So far, we have one for the Pokemon winning and one for the Lions winning. And most people have been writing off the possibility of using any of the entries from the Pokedex because, let's just face it, some of them are quite illogical. I'm sure you've seen a video or two talking about how wild some of these claims are, like how Macargo is hotter than the sun, or if Yveltal dies, then all living life comes with it. Many fans speculate that these entries are just written by the 10-year-olds that Professor Oak is sending out into the world, so most of them should be taken more along the lines of myth and legend rather than actual hard fact. And for the longest time, I agreed with that stance. Hell, even the side games didn't build on them so much. Like, you're not gonna learn anything from Pokemon Trose. Sure, a lot of these spin-offs were able to characterize the Pokemon deeper, but not that many actually built off of the entries that were already established. So with the Pokedex not having any factual backing, it seems like that we can't take this as an actual perspective when it comes to this argument. With all of this debate continually compounding on itself, it's definitely something that will need some time to think on. Definitely something that we could sleep on. I wonder why Dan is bringing up Pokemon Sleep, you're probably asking yourself. Well, I'm about to blow your goddamn mind. For those of you who don't know, Pokemon Sleep is a mobile game that tracks your sleeping patterns. In order to add that Pokemon spin though, after a long night of rest, you have a chance to befriend any Pokemon that happen to be sleeping at your site. The game was originally announced in 2019 and had a release date for 2020. Wait, what's that? Oh, it got delayed to an undetermined date and went silent for nearly 3 whole years until finally the Pokemon Company released a date for summer of 2023? Oh, I bet that didn't frustrate any Pokemon fans who are definitely known for not being vocal about their frustration. Anyway, Pokemon Sleep came out a few weeks ago on July 20th, 2023, and I've personally been enjoying seeing all of the Pokemon that come to my site. I mean, look at these cuties! However, beneath these slumbering faces is something a bit more sinister. A peaceful Pandora's box with the answers to many a question, including the ever so endless debate of the lions versus the Pokemon. The reason why? As I mentioned before, there aren't actually that many examples of the Pokedex being accurate. However, as people awoke to find more and more sleeping critters on their islands, we started to realize that the developers of Pokemon Sleep seem to be implying that the Pokedex is accurate, because it seems like the sleep styles seem to be referencing several of the Pokedex entries from over the years. Ditto, it can transform into anything. When it sleeps, it turns into a stone to avoid being attacked. Doduo and Dodrio. Doduo's 2 heads never sleep at the same time. Its 2 heads take turns sleeping. While 2 heads sleep, 1 head is said to stay awake. Primeape. If approached while asleep, it may awaken and angrily give chase in a groggy state of semi-sleep. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is often seen napping in the bright sunlight. Vigoroth. It can't stay still because its blood boils with energy. It runs through fields and mountains all day to calm itself. If it doesn't, it can't sleep at night. Cubone. Sometimes Cubone's dreams make it cry. Okay, that one's just depressing. But depressingly accurate. And those are just the ones that I was able to find both online and in my own experiences. The game's only been out for a few weeks, so there have only been so many sleep styles that people have run into, but there could be even more references out there. And this isn't the only time Select Button, the team behind Pokemon Sleep, has brought the Pokedex to life. This company was actually also behind Magikarp Jump, a mobile game where you played a Magikarp that was trying to jump as high as it possibly could. There were a handful handful of references to the Pokedex in that game that also proved a lot of the entries. For no reason, it jumps and splashes about, making it easier for predators like Pidgeotto to catch it mid-jump. By showing off all of these sleep styles and the Magikarps in this mobile game being able to jump this high, we have to accept that the Pokedex does have a modicum of truth in it. I mean, are we really powerful enough to accept that Magikarp jump is not canon to the Pokemon universe? By applying the new knowledge that we got from Pokemon Sleep, we can now see why this game was the missing puzzle piece in order to actually find the answer to our debate. This mobile game is a canonical reference for us to bring into the argument, which would mean that the Pokedex has truth in it and must be considered as such. This would mean that the Pokedex would extend into the lore that we've already established and can be used in order to take on these billions of lions. Macargo would pretty much be able to give third-degree burns to anything that was within a few feet of it. Machamp could literally punch 1,000 lions within 2 seconds. And you think a lion can take on a black hole by Gardevoir? What's it gonna do? Bite the black hole? Matthew McConaughey couldn't do that in Interstellar, so I don't think a lion could. And of course... Sure, some of these entries are a bit extravagant, but these entries must be based off at least a little bit of truth in order for Oak to actually enter them in. I would assume there's at least a bit of peer reviewing. I mean, how else would Oak get a degree? Wait, are professors doctors? Regardless, Pokemon Sleep shows us that the Pokedex is not all lies and that any entry should be taken with a little bit of truth. And if that's so, one of every Pokemon would be able to beat 1 billion lions. And if they weren't able to, well, then we would have bigger issues.